Oh, shit. Yeah. Yep. Showing up 3 hours for the comment section. We all need an MVP. And for us, that is Ron commenting at 4:12 p.m. for a 7 p.m. show, man. Some people. Welcome back to Tubbs the Club, your University of Idaho affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brian Marceau, joined by not only producer Redacted, but co-host today, Marten Heemstra. Marten, how's it going, dude?
It's going good. Sorry I was off last week. I was taking care of some health stuff and also making a top 5 visit, as we'll talk about later today.
Which you absolutely need to talk about because you got to do some facilities research, let's say. Unrelated. Marten, I don't know if viewers picked up on this. I was completely spacing out when we got to record. I was not paying attention whatsoever. I was about to sit down and be like, all right, Dallas is going to roll the show while I get my links up. No, Dallas Hammer is not here today. As you all know, you guys don't need me to tell you. Where's Dallas at? He's at Nickelback, right? So he'll be back next week. This is a basketball-only episode today. We have football news that'll be coming up next week. It is signing day, correct, Marten? A week from today, right? It's signing day is Wednesday.
Yep, signing day is next Wednesday, and there'll be a lot more to talk about next week.
Yeah, we're kind of choosing with football to talk about stuff as it comes up as like a completely batched story, let's say, to talk about. We will be expecting to see special teams coordinator announced. If you're a patreon.com/Tubbs at the club listener or subscriber, by the way, it costs less than a cup of coffee a month to support the show, guys. You guys know what we're talking about. But hey, with that said, man, it's around the bar time. Marten, let's talk women's sports before we let Dallas make his cameo appearance. But look, the women had a prosperous week. Both Idaho teams had Sac with a silent K State, and then top 5 Portland State as a Thursday, Saturday matchup. And yeah, it was a good week for the women. Martin, I'll let you take the wheel. You traveled for one of these games. How'd things go?
Yeah. So for the first game, they played Sac State in Sacramento, not in the warehouse as we like to call it. Sadly, there was now in some but I think is their student rec gym, if I believe right, Brian?
They have an actual, yeah, they have it's been renovated. Honestly, their new gym is essentially like a high school, absolutely standard high school style gym, except the court surface itself is pretty nice. But yeah, the Nest, my favorite non-Idaho facility in Big Sky Conference history, is a thing of the past. And in some ways that's devastating, but at the same time, this is the absolute last year we give a shit about Sacramento State at all in any sport. So back to you.
Yeah, so first game they played was against Sacramento State. They won 62-55. It was I mean, I think Arthur even said it in the post game of that game, and also the I want to say it was the coach's show yesterday. I believe it might have been Monday. I can't remember. My days are all kind of blurred together now, but like it was an ugly game. There's no way to kind of beat around the bush. It was just an ugly game. They won 62-55. Uh, Idaho never really pulled away from Sacramento State. They kind of did in the second quarter, but really it was not a pretty game. I think the highest score of the game I'm looking at right now was 11 points, 11, 10, and 10 for Hope, Anna, and Lorena. Sacramento State likes to make it ugly, and they absolutely did this game. They did not. They were not a bad team. I mean, most of the 2 points, but for that, most of the points for Sacramento State came from two people. Bente Versteeg from out of the Netherlands, and Natalie Picton scored 18. Between them, they had a total of 44 of Sacramento State's 55 points. It was if that Picton sounds familiar, she was a player on Montana State and transferred to Sac State. It just was not a pretty game, but Idaho found a way to win. And like Arthur said, if there's going to be games, you're going to have to find out a way to win ugly. And Idaho found a way to win an ugly, I don't want to say forgettable game, but just a pretty subpar game from them.
Yeah, Jason Mayer in the comment section, sub 30% shooting for Idaho, won the rebounding war in the game. And just point I want to bring up, Martin, is look, hey, we talk about this in all sports, right? Good teams do have to find a way to win ugly. Like that will happen from time to time. Had some upsets in the Big Sky this week last handful. Actually, it was this week. Montana State women lost at Idaho State, which just a reference point to bring up that, hey, good teams have rough nights. So Idaho gutting out a win when the top two scorers, Kyra Gardner and Hope Hassman, combined to shoot 5 for 30. That is the definition of picking up an ugly win. Now, we'll say for Gardner and Hassman, they also did what they needed to help Idaho pick up their W. Gardner also contributed eight boards. Hope Hassman 6 boards. That's 14 boards out of your top two guards, from the wing spot. So Deborah Dos Santos, 20 minutes, 8 points off the bench, and this is something for me to track through the rest of the season. You'll talk about it with Portland State, Martin, is Dos Santos and Lorena Barbosa. If everything's working well for Idaho, those two are the ones who are splitting the minutes at the 5. The difficulty Idaho's had in making it happen for those two to contribute 100% of your minutes at the 5 position is Barbosa has just not been able to play defense without fouling. And we had
she has some pretty, she can sometimes put a game together, which we'll talk about in just a second at the Portland State game. But like, I know like me and a couple of, it's another person that I talked to say like she has some, I'll call them dumb fouls from time to time. Not like frustration fouls, but dumb fouls that most people would pick up on.
Right. But she got to 15 minutes against Sac with a silent K. Similar total in the game against top 5 Portland State, averaging just under 15 minutes, 15 minutes on the year. So Barbosa hanging out for a bare minimum 15 minutes was a nice development. The number we want to see out of her is closing in on 20 to 25. So that between Dos Santos and Barbosa, your 5 minutes are 100% accounted for. We've covered this exhaustively. Do not expect to see Deborah Dos Santos play more than 25 minutes a game based off of recovery, from previous injuries.
Yeah. Moving on to the game that I was actually at in Portland State, this was a more complete game. There's a little, I'll say, wobble in the second quarter, but just because they kind of let Portland State back in. Sorry, I kind of jumped the gun here. Idaho won this game 84-66. It was a Idaho pretty much kind of led wire to wire. Portland State was a little scrap.
Spoiler, guys. Yeah, just spoiler. Top 5 Portland State sucks.
Yeah. I will also say this just from being at the game. It felt like there were more Idaho fans than there were Portland State fans at this game in Portland. It was not. There was more Idaho fans sitting courtside at Portland State than there were Portland State fans sitting courtside. It was a good game. A lot of people got minutes. This was, I'd say, I want to say Hope Hassan's best game she's had all year. She's had some kind of, I don't want to say bad games, but for the most part, it'd been more the Kira Gardner show, and kind of everybody else kind of playing defense to everybody. Like all the other teams were kind of defending, kind of covering Hope, but then that let other people like Kira and Ella and Lorena and Anna P and everybody else get the points, make the plays. But this was the first game where Hope really took over. Had her first double-double, which I thought she had one before, but I think, as I was also kind of someone told me later, her highest assist total before was 9, so she was always close but never quite got it. But today was her first double-double, 20 points, 12 assists, sorry. Kira Gardner had 19 points, 2 assists, and 2 blocks, 3 steals. They kind of Hope and Kira carried the load for Idaho today. But it was a more well-rounded game today. A lot of more people got playing time today just based off of Portland State not being very good. And yeah, it was overall like a pretty we would expect Idaho to do against a, let's say, bottom 3, top 5 Portland State.
Yeah, the winning both these games pushes Idaho to 6-1 in Big Sky, play 15-5 on the season overall. That 6-1 sits a half game behind Montana State, who picked up their first loss of the season against Idaho State. So that's right now, it's pretty much Idaho. I mean, look, if Idaho picks up another Big Sky win, Montana State's just played one more game in conference play than Idaho has. You're talking about a tie for first place. Now, of course, the tiebreak as of today would go to Montana State because they have the head-to-head W. But the number 3 team in conference, Northern Colorado at 6-2. That's right now how I would really look at who's going to be the 1 or 2 seed in the conference. It's going to be 2 out of those 3 teams. But yeah, Martin, that also the Vandals NCAA net rating still number 2 in the conference at 117 with the loss. Montana State falls to 76 nationwide. But again, for the Cats, that is in contention for a theoretical at-large bid. For Idaho, they've been the number 2 net rated team in the Big Sky for a little bit, but the idea that we seriously, if Idaho keeps picking up W's, we could have 2 Big Sky teams flirting with the top 100. That's pretty damn good. But I guess, Martin, I got 2 questions for you. First off is other takeaways from the Portland State game. And second, you have got to talk about actually getting to see Portland State's basketball facility. On TV, it looks like the second best place in the conference, but I've never been there. So what say you?
As far as what to expect, maybe like kind of just like I don't know what else, but just like for the game, it went about as what I expected. Nobody got hurt. Everybody played a healthy game, and everybody was pretty much safe in that game. As far as the facility goes, I'll be honest, I've confidently said this, it is a top 5 facility in the conference. Other than that, it's a fun place to watch and play. and it fits nicely for there. It just wish there was better like at least women's side. I wish there was a better team, but I can't complain too much. It's a nice facility. It's really nice. It's probably the nicest thing that's not Idaho's, I'd say.
Yeah, you heard it here first. New stadiums can be nice. All right, this week the men and the women's teams they've got Northern Colorado and Northern Arizona.
It's a double header in Greeley tomorrow, correct?
I honestly, it looks like it. The women play at 11 a.m. And then this is just sort of weird to me. The women play in Moscow for the Saturday game. Typically, both teams play either both home or both away. It is split this time, which
wonder if this is why we can't have a doubleheader with fucking Eastern this year, which is annoying.
Yeah, I mean the men aren't in Moscow. It's just the women on Saturday against Northern Arizona, but that is flipped. So that's on the Big Sky Conference. I'm sure someone can explain that. That person is not me, but that is the schedule.
Yeah. Ryan, you ready to?
Well, yeah, man. Before we talk about the men's team in the week they had, we have to talk about Hughes River Expedition, and this is where we get a cameo. Someone's going to step away from Nickelback. Martin, you let us know when our man's ready.
If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been vandal-owned and operated since 1976 and are ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of No Return, the Salmon River Canyons, or the Selway, and you can check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the entire United States. Just bring your clothes and let HRE handle the rest. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 406-540-4450 or check them out at hughesriver.com. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation,
Hashtag producing in public, guys. But yeah, Jason Mary comment section. Sunday, pay for the whole seat, but you'll need the end.
By the way, they are celebrating 50 years at HRE this year. So support Hughes Colin and Hughes River Expedition.
Okay, now on the men's side. So look, the women went 2-0. The men split decision in Moscow, which that was sort of what I thought people should expect. The way it actually played out was different. So first, Idaho hosting Sac with a silent K. Also, these two crowds for the Sac State Portland State game feels like the best back-to-back crowds that the Vandals have had the entire season. So good on the citizens of Moscow for showing up. There's 4 men's home games left in the entire year, so do your best to get to what you can. On Thursday, against Sac with a silent K, your Vandals led pretty much wire to wire, although Sac State did make a bit of a second half comeback to make it interesting, but men hold on for an 86-76 win, paced by 20 points out of Biko Johnson, 19 points out of Isaiah Brickner. Jackson Rasmussen did not play. Our understanding is Colton Mitchell was sick for part of this trip as well. Jack Payne, really strong first half, finished with 12 on the game and 12 rebounds off the bench. Seth Joba adds 9, and Aiden Sevilla had probably his best half of the season, picked up 7 on the game overall. So the big deal against Sac was getting the W in the first place. The Hornets look a little rudderless. They seem to have figured out that Mikey Williams can't be the focal point of their offense. Mark Lavernov, a post, he caused problems for Idaho for most of this game, picked up 26 points and 12 rebounds. But the Vandals kept the guard duo of Prophet Johnson and Mikey Williams in check. Those two combined to shoot 8 of 25 and score 22 points total. So, that was a big deal for Idaho holding on to that W. Now the second half of the Saturday game, my bad guys. Saturday game, Idaho and real top five in the Big Sky, Portland State. The Vandals looked like absolute garbage for almost the entire first half. Then came back in the second half, made things interesting, fell 69-66. This was very much a coulda, shoulda, woulda game for the Vandals. Like Biko Johnson bricked a breakaway layup but in the second half in a game they ended up losing by 3. Johnson also had a 3 he hit where he was obviously fouled, making the 3, and would have been a 4-point had the foul been called. 4-point play would have tied the game at that point. As Jason Mayer saying in the comment section, men battling the flu. Jackson Rasmussen did play. And Rasmussen, man, he was so close to having a great game. He had a solid game. Very close to having a great game. 11 points on 5 of 13 shooting. I say close to a great game because he had about 4 different times putting the ball on the floor. He made it to the rim, just left his shot short, which, hey, that could have been the difference. But Rasmussen does look like he's responded from his mid-season kind of funk to figure out how to get to the hoop, get good looks. Biko Johnson and Isaiah Brickner absolutely bailed Idaho out on the offensive end, especially in the first half. Brickner was a lot of the Idaho offense when no one else was showing up. Brickner finished with 22 points on the game. So that's 19 off the bench against Sac State, then 22 off the bench for Brickner against Portland State. Big weekend. And then Biko Johnson, 20 points on 4-12 shooting, including 8 of 10 from the free throw line. All his field goals came from behind the arc, going 4 of 9. Foul trouble absolutely plagued the Vandal post. And to be clear, Idaho guards in the first half, part of why Portland State was getting the looks they got, which a lot of them were dunks, was that Idaho guards initially were just doing a terrible job of containing Portland State pick and roll, and just terrible job of containing Portland State off the dribble. Defense collapses. That was leaving guys like Trayvon Minot and Terry Miller Jr. some pretty easy shots. Terry Miller Jr. leads the Big Sky Conference in scoring in conference play on the year. He's averaging on the season. He's averaging 22 in conference play. Against Idaho, he put up 29. Completely was the key to Portland State holding on to this W. But Vandals did battle back in the second half. Like I said, buckled down, played a lot better defensively, and also were able to get a little bit more going than just Isaiah Brickner. But Vandals fall 69-66. Portland State, kind of a fraudulent 7-0 in Big Sky play. They have a few very, very narrow wins on the season in conference play. Honestly, on this most recent road trip, Portland State beats Eastern by 4, beats Idaho by 3. They also have a 3-point win on the year over Northern Colorado and a 5-point win over Weber State. So if you're talking playoffs, Portland State is in pole position in the Big Sky, sitting at 7-0, a half game ahead of Montana State, who sits at 7-1. The Bobcats' lone loss came in Moscow to Idaho. The Vandals are in the 4 spot at 4-3 behind Montana in the 3 spot at 6-2. Your Vandals sit at 12-8 on the year. Now, last year's your benchmark. 14 wins for Idaho last season was the most wins the Vandals have had since the 2017 season. So this team is on pace to have their best win, their most wins in damn near a decade, and also on pace to finish above 500 for the first time in damn near a decade. Hit in the comment section. Ross Warren saying neither team can shoot free throws for some reason. Yeah, that hurts the men teams too. Rob Maurer says some key non-calls sure hurt. Idaho played well though. Yeah, against Portland State is the game Rob's talking about. Camus Chris, there was a few times, but they could have shot, but didn't. And then Jason Mayer, Portland State, definitely beatable. Yeah, absolutely co-signed. There is no team in the Big Sky that's going to be a runaway favorite. If you go to the standings, there are 3 games between first place Portland State and fourth place Idaho, 3.5. If you want to dip down into Weber State in the 5 spot, the top 5 spots get seeds and get to skip the first round, but where you are 1 through 5 does matter as far as your rest and your favorable or non-favorable scheduling in the conference tournament itself. What I'm looking at for Idaho from here is look at some point if Idaho is going to try to make a jump out of that 4 or 5 spot into like a 3-2 spot, they've got to pick up back-to-back wins. I mean, our Vandals in Big Sky play, They just have not picked up. They've picked up back-to-back wins once. That was over Weber State in the last road trip, and then Sac State this Thursday, or last Thursday. But other than that, these Vandals, they're just not picking up consecutive W's. At some point, if you're going to make a step into those top 3 spots, it's going to have to happen. At Northern Colorado, at Northern Arizona, those are 2 imminently beatable teams. Now, Northern Colorado is significantly better at home. But look, the Lumberjacks and the Bears both sit at 1-7 in conference play. Your Lumberjack NAU sits at 7-14 on the year. Northern Colorado at 11-10. The Bears are the little more confusing team. NAU looked absolutely catastrophically terrible to start the basketball season. Honestly, like they picked up a run of wins early against D2, Embry, Rid, wherever the hell that is. They beat Cal Poly and Southeast Missouri. Since then, a lot of L's. Northern Colorado is the inverse in that Northern Colorado started out the year really, really well. Looked like they're going to be the runaway favorite to win the Big Sky. But since beating University of Colorado, that's, Big 12 University of Colorado in Boulder, 86-81. That was the final out-of-conference game. Your Bears, led by former Vandal Quinn Danker, who my hot take has always been, if Danker is your top scorer, I know he's having a good year, but if Danker is your top scorer, it's going to be hard for your team to be any good. Since that final out-of-conference win, the Bears have kind of face planted and they have a single win in conference play. That's over Idaho State. This is one of the teams like Sac State. While no, that was the run where Mikey Williams was finally sitting. But like Sac State has beaten Northern Colorado. So if the Vandals are going to advance where they're sitting in conference, they absolutely have to pick up a couple wins, I think, on this road trip. What I'm looking for is 1 against Portland State. Now, part of this was our understanding his health is Colton Mitchell has been moved to the 2 guard spot. And I think that is best for Idaho. Biko Johnson is doing a lot more of the primary ball handling, which I just think that's the right call. He's a more dynamic ball handler than Colton Mitchell. Colton Mitchell can beat you off the dribble, but I just think the jury's in right now. Biko looks a little bit more comfortable running the 1 than Mitchell does. But Mitchell, I think his key to Idaho is he's got to be able to put up some points. And in some of the games Idaho has lost, where I feel like the Vandals could have picked up a W, I'm talking about at home against Montana, at home against Portland State. Mitchell has just not he's just had his rougher games. Now, Montana just missed shots. This game, health explains why he did not play as well as he did. But Colton Mitchell averaging 15 points a game in Big Sky play. He is just too good for Idaho to not be getting anything out of. He knows that. So hopefully him getting back to 100% between, the next game will be on, that's tomorrow, January 30th, 29th. When Mitchell's back, ideally he can be healthy. Cause if you can, the guard combination of Johnson, Mitchell, plus getting the wing/post points out of Rasmussen that needs to be the meat of Idaho offensively, with Brickner delivering what he will off the bench. Brickner's just kind of a hot, cold player. He can be very strong off the dribble, but you can tell, I think the reason he doesn't start is he's just not quite consistent enough. And I think you also just know that there are times where decision-making is questionable, but when Brickner's rolling, he's a very good scorer in this league. Biko Johnson has kind of in conference play, in my mind, taken over as the go-to scorer for the Vandals. He leads the team with 18 points a game in conference play. With the last thing is where I started this at talking Portland State when I was talking about Idaho struggling defensively from the guard spot. Now Idaho's probably always going to struggle defensively from the guard spot. It's more they just need to be not complete sieves. Against Portland State, post foul trouble was a big issue for Idaho. And if Robry is able to stay in longer, playing more than half the game, significantly more than half the game, that's a big deal for the Vandals. Seth Joba's done very well off the bench, but those 2 are pretty much the only traditional posts on this roster getting minutes. So at this point, what I'm looking for is, can the Vandals pick up 2 wins on this road trip? And if they can, that's how you know this Idaho team is ready to make a legitimate play for it. They're not going to win the conference, I don't believe, but they could. I think finishing 3 in conference is in theory on the table for this team. However, finishing 6th in conference is on the table for this team too, because the conference is, there's a ton of parity. There's no clear favorite in this conference in my mind. I mean, Portland State with their record, they're in pole position, but Idaho has now played. Look, the top 2 teams in the Big Sky, Portland State and Montana State. The Vandals are 1-1 against those teams and could quite easily be 2-0 against those teams. On the season, Idaho sits NCAA net rating. The Vandals are the number 4 team in the Big Sky at 162. Your top 5 Portland State Vikings and Montana State Bobcats sit at 134 and 137 respectively to lead the conference. Ramar saying getting a bye would be good. And Jason Mayer, anyone know Aiden's status / health? Talking to Aiden Sevilla, I do not know, man. It's kind of tough sometimes getting injury news in the Big Sky. Further in the comments section, Ross Warren going 2-2 on this trip probably cements us in 4th. Find a way to go 3-1, and it might set up a heck of a last 2 games at home. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how this goes, Ross, because if Idaho's able to pick up these couple wins, I mean, there's a glut of teams. Once you move beyond the top 2 teams, 7-0 Portland State, 7-1 Montana State, there are legitimately 4 teams, or potentially 5 if you want to dip down to Idaho State, 5 teams vying for spots 3 through 5 right now you got a game and a half separating Montana and Idaho for the 3 and 4 spot, and then a half game separating Idaho and Weber between the 4 or 5 spot, 1 game separating Idaho and Eastern between the 4 and 6 slot. The Big Sky itself is going to be very competitive. I don't think we're going to have a team in the Big Sky that actually wins a game in the NCAA tournament again. So, for us, the Super Bowl is the Big Sky Conference tournament, but getting the preferential seed in the conference tournament, like a lot of these games are going to mean a lot to a ton of teams in the Big Sky. So, realistically, you have teams like Idaho where they got a handful of guys who are, are good scorers, good, strong contributors in conference. As we know, Pico Johnson, Colton Mitchell, Jackson Rasmussen, guys we've talked about earlier. You have your Montana where Money Williams probably the best scorer in the entire Big Sky, but there's not that much at Montana after that. You just have a ton of teams that are incomplete in ways that make them kind of interesting as far as like who's going to finish where overall in Big Sky play. But what I'm now narrowly talking Idaho, Martin, that benchmark now for best season in a long time is you got to get to at least 15 wins. Your Vandals right now are sitting at 12 wins. So finishing above where the Vandals finished last year feels like it's an absolute shoo-in. However, in my mind, obviously, 1 game over is not what I'd call good enough. I hope Idaho is flirting with 20-ish wins, but if they're going to do that, eventually they got to sweep a road trip, or they got to sweep a homestand at some point. That's just something this team has not been able to do.
Yeah. Sorry, Brian. I got nothing else to add for that. Sorry, Brian.
No, dude, it's cool. But anyway, guys, we figured this would be one of our shorter episodes. We'll get football updates later. You can support the show, patreon.com/Tubs at the club to join the hashtag only Tubs Discord, best place to talk Vandal sports online anywhere. Ross Warren, this is close to being a good season. The potential exists to make it a great one. It could, of course, also go the other way. If we had a really good post, we would be at another level, although our guys are doing okay. Rob, that's a good point to bring up. Jackson Rasmussen has been getting more effective to me putting the ball on the floor from the perimeter going in. And another thing I want to pay attention, I bring that up because look, Idaho just doesn't have a post where we're going to isolate him on the left block and say, hey, that's where we're going to go and get our points. That's just not who this team is. By the way, most teams in the Big Sky are like that, but I feel like the Vandals are figuring out more and more each week what their offensive identity needs to be. And I bring that up because as a team, Idaho is just a bad perimeter shooting team, guys. Like, that's it. Like, they're not very good at shooting free throws. And in conference play, this is the second worst 3-point shooting team in the conference at 32%. Only Sac State is worse. The top 3-point shooting team is Montana State at 41%. And that's also at volume. The Bobcats have taken more threes in conference play than the Vandals have. The Vandals are the number 4 volume 3 shooting team, but again, second to last in 3-point percentage and dead last in free throw percentage as a team, shooting 70%. Opposing teams shoot 78% from the stripe against Idaho. I bring that up because this week, and against Portland State, I did feel like we had less of the lulls where Idaho is going to threes early in the shot clock. That's what this team needs to be. We know this team's going to shoot, but just keep in mind, look, they hit like 10 threes in the first half against Sac State, which was, quite the explosion. But also against Sac State, they were shooting good threes. Those were kickouts. Those were threes within the flow of the offense. Those no complaints. They have to be able to shoot those. They have to be able to make those if they're going to be any good. It's when Idaho's had its lulls. It's when they're just not making shots, or they're settling for bad shots. But I do feel increasingly Idaho is getting better and better at putting deep pressure on the defense first, and then allowing that to generate 3-point looks. I just feel like that's kind of where this year, when things aren't working well, we've talked about it on this show exhaustively. We talked about it on patreon.com, hashtag only subs Discord exhaustively too, is this team just needs to not look to shoot threes first. This is objectively not a very good perimeter shooting team. They have to put pressure on the defense in other ways, and then take open threes, take good threes, which penetration and looks in the post will get. Getting some stops and getting the ball in transition, that'll get you those good open threes. But honestly, to me, if you're not Colton Mitchell, if you're not Biko Johnson, you probably should only be shooting threes if you are 100% completely wide open in a kick-out scenario. Maybe Brickner, you'd say, is the third that you might throw in that batch. But otherwise, whenever this Idaho team is working the ball inside, that's where the good things happen. They get the foul line, they get good looks inside, or that's where you generate the open threes that this team can and needs to be able to make to pick up W's.
I got nothing.
Saying he's good. All right, so guys, and then hey, Tom Kendall saying Payne's getting better. Yeah. Jack Payne had 2 better games for him. Coming off of injury, Payne. There's no way around it. Payne had just really struggled for much of the season, but against Sac State, easily had his best half, and then against Portland State, he contributed as well, 7 points. I think that Payne, it's taken a minute for the team and for Jack Payne to find his new role, because this is a more offensively talented team than the Vandals had last year. Layer that on top of the injury that had slowed Payne down and working back into shape. He's just not going to get the volume of looks. I think he's kind of found his role these last couple weeks being a little bit more, these last couple games being a little bit more of an energy guy. And against Sac State, he had 3 in the first half. He had, I believe, 3 or 4 good looks inside, either in transition or his putbacks. So I hope Payne can find his way to regularly contribute. That would be a big deal for Idaho. Until Christian Gonzalez sees the floor, he has not seen the floor. And it feels, not breaking news here, we'd been told there's a good chance we'd see him this year. But as we get deeper and deeper into the year, he's still got his boot on. Until he's playing, he's not. Rob Marr in the comment section, sickness did not help. Plus Gonzalez being out really hurts. Payne looking better. I think his ankle is getting beher. If Gonzalez can get to the point that he's contributing that for Idaho this year, that would radically change the prospects for this Vandal team. But even with his injury, we're on pace for Idaho to have the best season they've had in a very long time. Rob Marr saying he's out for the season. Coach said, okay, so that settles it. Gonzalez out for the year. Don't expect him back. Devastating, just because you see him looking better on the bench, but if he's still in a boot. So if Dribble says he's out, he's out. Maybe that means we got him back for next year. Fingers crossed. That's your basketball update, guys. Thanks for joining this week. Like we said, every once in a while we have shorter episodes. We'll have football news to talk about later, but I'm going to be watching the games this week, and then I expect to be in Moscow for the women's game this Saturday. So hope to see you guys there. Until then, Martin, you want to add anything before we call tonight?
I got nothing else. Basketball's fun again, which is always a great time around, and not just football talk, but it's fun times around here in Moscow at the arena.
This is the Vandal Hoops official Twitter account, released graphic. This is the best combined start for the men's and women's team in 30 plus years. So no, the women's team, they're still battling it out for first, maybe second place in conference. The men, they are at the point that I think they're going to be favored to win at least a game in the Big Sky Conference tournament potentially with a bye. They got to pick up the wins to get there. They got to, again, eventually they got to sweep a series at some point if they're going to take a step in conference. But no, so far things are good. Both teams are, eminently likable. So if you can get the games, man, get there, especially at ICCU, dude. You don't need that many people for the environment to be kick-ass. Although we'll say men's team, when the crowd gets in it, come on, guys. Like against Portland State, every time the crowd got in it, Idaho instantly gave up a 1-footer. Reciprocity. We need some help. The crowd needs to help the team out, but the team's got to help the crowd out too. We'll see you next week. Until then, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.